Updating you on the breaking news, a verdict is in the ComEd bribery trial. The so-called ComEd 4 have been convicted of a wide-ranging bribery scheme to funnel money and jobs to associates of then House Speaker Michael Madigan.
Jurors found Mike Madigan confidant Michael McLean, former ComEd CEO Ann Pramaggiore, also former City Club President Jay Doherty, and ComEd lobbyist John Hooker. They found that they influenced the House Speaker, and this helped bills favorable to the utility get through the legislature in Springfield. They were convicted on all counts against them, including, as Ben has mentioned, bribery, conspiracy, and falsifying records. They could face significant fines as well as prison time.
WGN's Julian Cruz has been covering this case from the beginning. He joins us now from the Dirksen Federal Building with an update. Julian?
Well, Ben and Lourdes, the defendants, the four defendants known as the ComEd 4, not betraying their emotions as the verdict was read inside of a Dirksen Federal Building courtroom. Devastating, make no mistake, a devastating verdict, not just for these defendants, but also their families who could be heard sobbing in the hallway outside the courtroom after this verdict came in. Now, just to give you an example, the charges and the sentence, the possible sentence these defendants could be looking at, very substantial when you're talking about bribery conspiracy that's not more than 5 years and or a maximum fine of $250,000. But when you talk about the falsification of records, a much more serious offense with up to 20 years in prison, which could also include a fine of up to $5 million. Now, for example, Michael McLean, he was found guilty on all 9 counts. He faces 2 falsification of record counts, counts 3 and counts 4. So that alone, looking at the potential for a substantial prison sentence. Now, of course, there have been some legal analysts who have said that they believe that this case will be appealed eventually. But right now, it's about the verdict. The foreman for the jurors, Sarah Goldenberg, talking to reporters about how they approached this case, a very complicated case. And she said they didn't even know how to begin when they first got into the jury deliberation room. But here we are, exactly a week since they began. A tremendous victory, Ben and Lourdes, obviously for the government as they look ahead to 2024, April of 2024, and Michael Madigan's turn, facing 22 counts, including racketeering. Back to you guys.
And no doubt the prospect of significant prison time for those 4 defendants could be used by the government as leverage to try to get them to cooperate in Madigan's trial.
All right, let's turn now to our political analyst here at WGN, Paul Lisnak. He is joining us via Zoom this afternoon. Paul, I want to touch on what Julian had just talked about, and that is the sentencing for these 4 individuals. Some could face prison time. I mean, he talked about as much as 20 years behind bars. What is, you think, the likely scenario for all 4 of these defendants?
Well, there's a variety of things that can happen, Lourdes and Ben. And let me also just pick up on one other thing Julian talked about. He said certainly there's going to be an appeal here. There will be an appeal here. But what I think our viewers need to understand is that an appeal is not along the grounds of saying, hey, the jury got it wrong. They just didn't understand. This is the way politics is played in Springfield. They sort of did that. No. Appeals are about, was there an error that was committed during the trial? Did the judge let something in that he shouldn't have, or didn't let something in that he should have? It's about errors at trial. It's not about, we had a better theory and the jury just didn't seem to get it. So people should understand that. As far as where things go forward, you're right. I mean, the sentencing will be down the line. There'll be some time. There could be an effort because there is the Madigan trial that takes place November of 24. That is a year away. But the feds may be talking to these now convicted defendants to say, look, do you want to play ball here? Because that could, if they agree, impact the sentencing that the judge will do. Clearly, with guilty verdicts, they're all going to look for. They're all certainly facing jury time and fines, that kind of thing. But the bottom line is the judge can decide to have things run concurrently, which means together, consecutively, which means one after the other. There's still a lot of time in here to see how things go, and the prosecutors will play a key role, I think, in deciding how, if at all, these defendants can assist them in the next trial going forward. Because, look, one thing is clear. This was a precursor. This was a test on the Michael Madigan theory. And in this case, all of these defendants who tried to pin it on Madigan, the jurors weren't buying it.
So sentencing may not happen for a while in this
No.
case. Okay, thank you so much, Paul Lisnick. We will continue to check in with you throughout the afternoon.
Some unique perspective now. One of the jurors has now spoken to reporters about how the jury reached its verdict. She says the government secretly recorded phone conversations between the defendants helped seal their fate.
There were quite a few that when Hooker and McLean were reminiscing about how they came up with this idea and they were creative and that would help them keep it clean. That did not sit well with all of us, and there were at least 3 conversations that they kind of talked about how they were expressing their pride in themselves. They came up with this corrupt structure. So those were ones that we definitely stuck out for us.
So interesting to hear from the jurors this afternoon, and over 100 recordings in this trial, so they had a lot to go through.
It's always hearing people on tape that can really drive it
Yeah.
home. Another question that juror was asked was Mike Madigan's role. He wasn't on trial in this case, and one of the jurors said Mike Madigan played a huge factor in this. So no doubt his lawyer's watching that, Madigan potentially watching that as he looks ahead to his own prospects.
Okay.